Hi guys, and welcome back to Keep Smiling Adventures, and in today's video I have this big bag here full of wild camping kit. And in today's video I am basically going to go through all the different ways I approach wild camping while on my bikepacking trips. Now I get asked a lot, what tent is that? How do I keep warm at night? So in this video we're going to go through all of it. Now I have 4 different setups for wild camping while on bikepacking trips. 3 I mainly use, 1 I used to use, I don't really use it anymore because it's just old and worn out, and you'll see that later on in the video. But in this video we're going to take a look at each one, why I would opt for that one over another one, and just generally have a look at these 4 different ways of approaching wild camping while on your bikepacking trips. Now, first things first is to get them all set up. Let's do it. So we have got all 4 set up. As you can see, we have a hammock, a tent, a bivy, and a hooped bivy. Right, I think first of all, let's get this out of the way. I do not use a sleeping mat, ever. Not because I'm against them. I think if you are new to camping, you should definitely use them. You just sleep on the floor. I am one of these people that can literally fall asleep anywhere and everywhere. Maybe that's because I'm got so used to falling asleep in the kitchen, at the back, on the back of a pot. I do not ever use a sleeping mat, so I can't give you any advice on using one, apart from you probably should. You do lose most of your body heat from the ground. In a hammock, you do lose a lot of the heat, and even for me, considerably a lot from underneath, so you should use an under blanket. But we'll get into that in a minute. So what do I use to stay warm? Now I use 2 options pretty much. So in the summer months, which is maybe like a month or 2 months in the UK, when it's warm, I use this down sleeping bag. This is just a cheap one off Amazon. It was like 60 quid, I think. It packs down to basically nothing. It's good at about, you know, down to maybe like 6 or 7 degrees at night. I can comfortably sleep in that. In the summer in the UK, it might be 15 degrees. And I could pretty much sleep outside in that in just a jacket, to be honest. So this is the sleeping bag I use. I'll try and link it down below or on the screen or somewhere. I can't remember exactly how much it was. I think it was around 60-70 pounds off Amazon. It is literally just a cheap one. It's down, it doesn't have a hood. It's it packs down to nothing. It weighs absolutely nothing. Obviously, I am in the UK, and well, for the most of the year, it's not really warm. It's also not freezing cold most of the time. It's actually quite rare for it to be like -10 or anything like that. Like, it drops down to minus sometimes, but in them conditions, I will typically go for pretty much all the year. I use the Alpkit Pipe Dream 400. Now, I believe Alpkit claim this is good down to about like -3 on comfort, and extreme is like, I don't know, -10. I'll put it on screen what they say. I've used this down past freezing before, and I've been fine. Now, like I say, I do, especially in the winter, I carry a down jacket, so I sleep in a down jacket as well as this, so that sort of adds to the warmth. So that is how I stay warm. That is the sort of sleeping bags I use. The Pipe Dream 400, that's my most of the year sleeping bag in the UK. And then the cheap Amazon one, which is just for like the summer months. This one I took on the Great North Trail. Again, it wasn't exactly cold. As long as it sort of stays around the 10 degrees at night, I'm pretty comfortable in that Amazon one. So let's start with the hammock. The hammock is an Alpkit Mora hammock, and well, it packs down to the size of a Coke can, and it's tiny. Now, I get asked a lot, how do I stay warm in this? And like I say, this for me is still cold. Even in the summer months, it is actually still a little bit cold. So again, I need to use my down sleeping bag, my bigger sleeping bag for the most part if I'm using the hammock. But for me, typically, I only really like to take the hammock in a couple of occasions, because in the UK, I know I'm surrounded by trees now, but there isn't that many places that you can go to get trees, or it's not that easy to get to, so it's not always the right option. It really does depend on the trip that you're doing. But saying that, I like to use this on warmish days, so when it's going to be around 10 or 15 degrees at night, that's okay for me. I can manage without an under blanket at that sort of temperature, around probably 10, even going a bit lower than that with a down jacket, I can. That is one reason why I would opt for this if it's sort of that sort of temperature. But also, if it's been raining and the ground is wet, the hammock really is like a great choice. And if it's going to be showery on your trips, then it's also another great choice, because, well, with your hammock you do, and for the most part you should definitely take a tarp. And the great thing about having the tarp and the hammock sort of set up, if it starts raining and you want to get your hammock set up, you can do your tarp up first, you can make it nice and secure, you can get under it, you can get dry, and then set up all your sleeping arrangements under that. And it's just generally quite a nice sort of way of doing it. You can also like set your tarp up high so you can stand under it, you can get changed, you can have a wash, you can cook, you can do all that stuff, and it is really a great option if you want that versatility. It also packs down absolutely tiny. Like I said, it's literally a Coke can, and it is also a very comfortable experience. It does take a little bit of getting used to sleep in a hammock. You need to sort of sleep sideways or sort of at an angle, and it has taken me quite a few overnight trips and longer trips to actually be able to sleep comfortably in it. But like I say, if you are going to use a hammock and you are a cold sleeper anyway, the hammock is going to be even colder. For me, I can just about manage this. I have done it in like extreme, like 0 degrees, and like I'm still okay, but my feet are cold and I don't really sleep that great. But if it's around 10 degrees, I can do this without an under blanket. But I will say most people won't be able to do that. You will want some kind of under blanket which basically traps the heat from your body and doesn't let it go out into the woods. So that is the hammock, and that is why I would choose this for lightweight packing, versatility if it's going to be a showery and the ground's damp and I don't want to lay on the ground. It's also a great option to be able to get under the tarp, set up the tarp and do all that stuff before, so you can keep all your sleeping stuff nice and dry. But like I say, it's definitely on the colder side. Okay, let's move on to the tent, the most versatile piece of camping equipment. All you really need to be able to use a tent is a bit of flat ground. That's about it. With the hammock, you obviously require trees. This, all you need is sort of flat ground and you can set it up. So the reason I choose to use the tent on a lot of my bikepacking trips, you see it, it's normally mostly on the off-road trips, and it's because it's just generally is easy to live with. In the UK, like I say, there isn't actually that many trees, so the hammock isn't always the greatest choice. The tent is going to offer you the most protection from most of the elements. It's the most easiest to sort of live with, be able to do stuff inside of it. The tent, for most people, is going to be the main option for camping. And I think a big reason for that is the price range of tents. You can go from quite cheap and they're usable. I mean, there's a certain point that I think you probably shouldn't use the chuck away tents where you use once and then that's it and you can't use it again because they're just crap. But at a certain level, around the 60 to 70 pound mark, this one is only around 100 pounds and it packs down to literally nothing, and it's lightweight and it just stands up to most things. It's not perfect. I've got a full review, final thoughts video on that. I'll link it up in the well, a card wherever they are. So the price of tents obviously helps. You can pay for an entry level sort of one and you can pay really expensive. There's like a price point for every single person's budget, and also they're just generally the easiest to live with. So why will I pick a tent over a hammock or a bivy? Well, I will pick the tent for quite a lot of the trips, off-road trips in the UK, because it offers me the most protection while also being the most versatile about where I can pitch it. I can pitch it up on top of a mountain, I can pitch it in a wooded area. I can still stay relatively stealth with this type of tent, and also this particular one has two options, so you can have it with the outer or just the inner. Now again, like I say, I don't use a sleeping mat, so it's just a case of what is the temperature going to be around that sort of date that I'll be traveling for, and I'll pick my two sleeping bags and also possibly a down jacket. For a little bit of added comfort, I use my dry bag with like spare clothes or whatever's in it. Like if it's not cold, I have my down jacket in there, or a jacket that I've been wearing, whatever, and I'll stuff that, and that'll be my pillow. That's how I have like a slight bit of comfort. But for the most part, if I can find flat ground, the tent is mostly the best option for me. So the tent offers me the most protection, it's the easiest to live with, and it's probably the most versatile sort of equipment that I use. There being a price point for every single person, I think the tent is going to be most people's first choice. But let's move on to the bivy. So the bivy, probably the most simple form of, well, your protection while wild camping, or just camping in general. Most definitely the easiest to set up. Now watch this. This is your setup. I'm done. Literally, if you can find a bit of flat ground that you're happy to lay on, you lay your bivy, put your sleeping bag in, and you get in and sleep. So why would I use the bivy maybe over the tent or the hammock? Because the hammock is a very small, packable item, just as the bivy is, around the same size. The hammock obviously has its disadvantages of not being able to find trees, where the bivy, you can literally set it up anywhere. So why do I use it? I will typically opt for this bivy on ultra distance rides. So when I am going to be riding 200, 250 miles a day, where I might only be sleeping for 3 or 4 hours if I'm lucky. Bivy is obviously the most stealth of all of these options. You can literally hide behind a tree, lay behind a tree, and you're good. So this one is great for me, and it's one I choose, especially when I'm doing long distance road rides where I can just sort of hop into a field, sleep for a few hours, and then go. It's also super quick to set up and pack. So if I'm in a racy type of situation against myself, trying to go as far as possible, this will be the option I take, because it's just generally super, well, it's super easy. Now there are a few issues with a bivy, and now this one in particular, this one isn't a closed zipped one, and so you are exposed to the elements. So if you're going to be using this in times where it might be raining, you're probably going to want to take a tarp to set up a tarp as well to keep yourself off you. You can get ones that zip completely, but remember, you shouldn't actually zip them completely anyway, because you'll suffocate. For me personally, I'm not a fan of this style of bivy if it's like a zipped one, because I would rather just have my face out in the open. Now there is this beautiful feeling about sleeping just on the ground, wherever you are, underneath the stars in a bivy. It's the simplest form of camping, and it is generally the nicest in my opinion. Although it's definitely not for everybody. You're gonna have to deal with the bugs, you're gonna have to deal with just generally the elements around you, and you don't get protection like you do with a tent. But for me, if I want to go on a long distance trip and I'd want to do lots of miles and very little sleeping, then the bivy is pretty much the perfect choice. It packs down super small, it is super fast to set up and to pack up, and well, there's no preparation, as you can see. That would be why I would opt for a bivy over, say, a tent or a hammock. But there is one other option, which is the hooped bivy. So the hooped bivy. Now, this is the hooped bivy I used when I went around the coast of Britain, the AquaQuest hooped bivy. And then I literally lived in it for about 3 months in the woods. So what is the difference between a bivy and a hooped bivy? Well, it's got a hoop. Basically, the hoop gets the bivy off of your face. So it's kind of like the zipped ones, but you get a bit more space. Why would I opt for this hooped bivy? So for me, the hooped bivy is all about being like the bivy, but just a little bit more livable. So when I was doing the coast of Britain, I wasn't in a rush, but I was wild camping. And because I was on the road, most of my wild camping wasn't too far away from like the roads and stuff. So I needed to be quite stealthy. The bivy gives me the same advantage of the normal bivy. However, I get a slightly bit more luxury with it being able to lift off my face. And also with this one in particular, it actually has guide rope mounts, so you can like tie it off to a tree and you can get it really off of you completely. It's also an extremely waterproof bivy. Now, I have been in complete downpours for hours and hours and hours, and I've had really good success with this hooped bivy. Now, it's great that you can obviously tie it off of you so it doesn't touch your sleeping bag, but also on the sunny, dry nights, it also has a complete bug net and also a side opening. Now, it would be quite hard for me right now, as it is with this bivy, to recommend it to you now, because I think it needs updating to be able to be packed down a little bit smaller and maybe make it a little bit lighter, because for this bivy it weighs about 1 kilo, which isn't bad, but my tent weighs just over 1 kilo. The tent is obviously a lot more spacious and livable, and well, this one isn't quite as livable as a tent, but I will say using this around the coast of Britain was the absolutely perfect choice. So I would use a hooped bivy for a slightly more livable option than just the standard bivy, but while I really need that sort of stealthy camping. Downsides to the hooped bivy are pretty similar to the bivy really, although you get a little bit more luxury. Such a small shelter, you can find yourself having quite a damp sleeping bag, although I was mostly able with this one to, if it was dry, just leave it open because it has a bug net. As it has a bit of airflow at the back, just sort of make sure the wind is coming from that direction, so the wind is flowing into it. However, you will always get a little bit more condensation than you would say in a tent. The airflow just generally isn't going to be as great, but like I say, it is a great option for stealth wild camping while still packing pretty light, but while just being a little bit more livable. Now, I am 6'6", I will say. I actually fit in this pretty good, and I was also able to sleep with my backpack as like a pillow in there. I know it seems mad because it doesn't look that massive, but it is actually probably the most spacious hooped kind of bivy out there. However, like I say, it's hard for me to recommend it in today's market when you can buy something like the Outfit Soloist tent for less price or around the same price, and it just generally be about the same weight. But hooped bivvies are great if you want a bit more luxury, you're going a bit further, you're going to be going for a lot longer, but you still need that stealth camping option. So there we have it, guys. They are the 4 setups of camping that I will typically use on all my bikepacking trips or just general adventures. Now, I don't really use the AquaQuest hoop bivy anymore because it's seen better days. It's a bit tired and well, it's kind of served its purpose. However, these are the 4 sort of setup wild camping options, and I think they are the most sort of common ones that people will use. So, quick recap: the hammock, it's great for if it's rainy, it's damp, and you don't want to lay on the floor. It's a super lightweight setup. However, It's definitely the most coldest of the lot of sleeping, especially if you are not using an underblanket. The tent, probably the most versatile piece of equipment for your wild camping needs, the most livable. Nowadays, the most price efficient, I would say, price for every single body. The bivy, the standard bivy, the most simple form of wild camping. Lay it on the floor, you can lay anywhere. The most stealth way of camping, and also the most easiest and quickest to set up and pack away. And the hooped bivy, slightly not as stealth as the standard bivy, but pretty much the same. Just offers you a slight more roomy kind of feel to your bivy, still remaining very stealth, pretty lightweight, just not quite as light as the standard bivy. So guys, hope you enjoyed this video. That was a look at my 4 wild camping options and sort of how I approach my wild camping. Yes, I do not use a under blanket or a sleeping mat. Yes, you probably should. I just know me, I've been doing this for 10 plus years, so I just know what works for me. But bear in mind, everybody is different. Most people will feel the cold, especially if you just do it every now and again. I spend so much time outdoors, living in the woods for 3 months during November, December and January. Everybody is obviously different. Most people, especially if it's more of a thing you do every now and again, you go out and you spend a night in the woods, you probably will need to have an underblanket or a mat, because you do lose a lot of heat there, and that is a very common mistake for people. However, for me, I'm just used to it, I'm acclimatized to it, I don't get cold while sleeping on the floor. I'm just used to it. I don't know why, I'm just used to it. I'm somebody who can sleep anywhere. That was a look at my 4 different wild camping setups. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, consider subscribing, and we will be going on some adventures very, very soon. Just trying to get a new wheel, and I'll see you in the next adventure. Keep smiling, enjoy the adventure.